Hey humans, it's Hannah. Welcome back to the channel. Here is your part 2 to the internet mysteries Iceberg. Today we are doing tiers 3 and 4. This is going to be the longest Iceberg series ever because every one of these videos is just long and we're only doing 2 tiers at a time because we have a lot to get into. So today's video is supported by a sponsor, so I'm going to roll to that, but we're going to get right into it. I know I probably sound like a broken record by now, but as you guys know, I hate cooking. I can maybe manage to do it 1 or 2 times a week, but I just don't like it. I always make a huge mess with all the prepping and the chopping and the raw meat. Cooking takes forever, and then it takes me like 10 minutes to actually eat it, and then it takes like another half hour to clean up my dang kitchen. I rarely want my leftovers, and then I end up throwing food away, which in turn I feel very guilty about. And all that to say, I am very grateful to today's sponsor, which is Factor. With Factor, I get to skip all of it. The grocery shopping, the prepping, the cooking, and the cleanup. I get to skip all the stress, and instead I just eat chef-crafted, dietitian-approved meals that are ready in just 2 minutes in the microwave. They are fresh, never frozen, cheaper than takeout, and taste amazing. This month, I recommend the roasted garlic chicken meal. It comes with green beans plus sour cream and onion mashed potatoes. Oh my gosh, I had this for lunch. I felt like I was eating at a super fancy restaurant. It was so delicious. The best thing of all is that Factor is super flexible to fit your lifestyle, not the other way around. So you could pick anywhere from 4 to 18 meals a week in your box. Or if you don't want your box that week, you can pause or reschedule your box with just a few clicks on their website. Factor is just all about giving you more time this summer to soak up the sun and do what you actually want to be doing. Head to factor75.com or click the link below and use code HannahTheHorrible50 to get 50% off your first Factor box and 20% off your next month of orders. That's code HannahTheHorrible50 at factor75.com to get 50% off your first box plus 20% off your next month of orders. Do not miss this discount. Okay, so if this happens to be the first video that you stumbled across on my channel, I'm really sorry if you're confused. Highly recommend you go back and watch part 1 of this video because it has all the disclaimers and what an iceberg is and yada yada yada. So I just highly recommend not starting with this video. You definitely can. It's good as a standalone. You don't need any background info in order to watch this. It's just that this is part 2 and part 1 has tiers 1 and 2 of the giant internet mysteries Iceberg. So we're going to dive into more mysteries today. Without further ado, let's start with tier 3. This is u/YAYVIDEOGAMES, which was a Reddit user. So for a long time, this was a huge mystery on the internet. There were lots of videos made about this, but it has actually since been solved, even though the ending to the whole saga was actually really, really tragic and really sad. u/YAYVIDEOGAMES was a Reddit user, as we touched on, and he's known for being just a very normal Reddit user one day, and then the next seeming like he goes down a mental health spiral, spamming all these forums with specifically some variation of the sentence Ubisoft goes Steamworks bye-bye, always on DRM. This user also seemed to make a lot of different accounts and spam different forums with weird phrases. The amount of spam comments that this user and these accounts were creating, I think, is what was really tripping people up because it just seemed impossible. It seemed like just thousands and thousands of these types of comments. And so it just got everybody's attention and it was very, very strange. However, a lot of people chalked it up to a troll. Maybe it was a troll that was producing all of these with their computer, or maybe somebody got hacked and it was a bot doing all this. However, through the various accounts, people finally did figure out that this user was actually very mentally ill and was struggling quite a bit. Not only did this user struggle with some pretty bad mental illness, they were also in physical pain. They had a chronic disease called chronic fatigue syndrome. So this poor human was just stuck in this cycle of not only depression, but also just chronic pain and feeling, which doesn't help your depression because you feel like it's never going to get any better. It was eventually revealed that the man behind the account was someone named Lyndon Wetchell. I'm so sorry if I'm saying the last name wrong. I do apologize. And unfortunately, it was later revealed that in January 2015, Lyndon Linden ended up dying by S-word. So the answer to Yay Video Games and why Linden was spamming all of these accounts and all of these Reddit forums, a friend eventually came out and explained it as well, that it was literally just his sense of humor. Like, he just thought it was funny. It was kind of a way that he could cope with his mental illnesses by kind of being entertained. He was kind of being a troll, but not a mean troll, if that makes sense. Like, it was just a way to, like, I think he really liked that he added this big mystery to the internet and would have really enjoyed the kick that everybody got out of it. But it did turn out that it was not like a result of his mental illness, but it was like a way to cope with his mental illness. At least that's my understanding. I don't want to speak for him, of course, but that's my understanding of the whole situation. Okay, next on the list is Erratas or Erratas. I think it's pronounced Erratas. Again, kind of, you hear different pronunciations. Erratas was a whole thing that started back in 2015 on 4chan. Somebody on 4chan posted this thing about how there was a woman that they once knew, and this woman told this person a story about how one time they were packing boxes in a warehouse that they worked at, and while the woman was packing these boxes, on the tape gun that they gave her to do this, she saw the word Erratas printed on the tape gun. A programmer that the woman worked with saw this and told her to throw the tape gun away completely and not to Google the word Erratas. Apparently all the computer systems were set up in a way that could sense if somebody looked up the word Erratas, it would like flag it in their system, and whichever employee looked up the word would be immediately fired. So the anonymous poster that posted this story on 4chan claims that the woman who told him this story, I know it's a little confusing, that she was homeless and she was just talking about a temp job that she once had. She was also in a band. The homeless and band part is surprisingly relevant. Then later, another anonymous user posted a YouTube channel on 4chan, and this channel had a video called "YouTube is Monitoring and Controlling My Life." This channel goes on to claim that the person behind it has discovered secrets about Universal Studios in the Jurassic Park trilogy specifically. In one of the other videos on this channel titled "Here Goes Nothing," internet sleuths discovered that if you turned on the automatic captions for this video, you would get 2 secret messages. Something like 200 Corbin KY 40219, and later another message said overthrow the government. However, the captions have since changed. I don't know when they changed, but that is allegedly what it originally said. 200 Corbin KY 40219 sounds like an address, but it's not a real address. People found this phrase on a Bandcamp website. This Bandcamp website was promoting the band KFC Murder Chicks. They were a horror band, and the women in the band were apparently homeless. One of the members of the band was not only previously homeless or currently homeless, but also used to work in a warehouse. The band had posted their EP only a few days before the 4chan post went up. So yeah, it's very safe to say that this was a big marketing stunt for the band KFC Murder Chicks. Given that they're in the horror genre, they probably are aware of ARGs and other random internet mysteries, and they probably knew how effective marketing in this way could be if they stirred up an internet mystery, especially because people into horror are more likely to be into internet mysteries as well, and so they're probably going to be more likely to listen to their music. But it is very likely that the original posts were from people in the band. They were all, 4chan's pretty anonymous, and so it's very likely that the people posting these were in the band, and then when people weren't getting it, they posted again, leading to the YouTube channel before people finally got led to the Bandcamp website. Does that make sense? The whole thing with Erratas ended up being a hoax. Nobody has ever been fired for actually Googling that term, but it's so funny because even on the internet, you see it misspelled a lot of the time. For people that are paranoid, they spell it with one R or something like that, hoping that that will be a loophole around in the system because they are worried about it. But you can Google it all you want, nothing happens. Evilstick is next. A lot of you have probably heard about this one. This is one of the best internet mysteries that has ever happened. And if you're not new to this channel, you've probably heard of it because it's my #1 video. It's my #1 performing video. It's very old. I really hope something else takes that spot soon because it's a very old video. I had to go back and rewatch it for this video, and I have to say it's not too bad other than the fact that my camera was very out of focus, but you live and you learn. So if you want all the details to the entire story, definitely go watch that video. It's only like 10 minutes, but here's the summary. The Evilstick was a toy that a woman bought for her young child back in 2014. She went to a dollar store and went to the kids section, and there's like this whole wall of pink toys, like very, very aimed towards stereotypical girl toys, dolls and pink plastic galore, you know? So she picks up this random wand that looks like it's just a princess wand. It's pink. It's supposed to have a button to play whimsical music. It has a little mirror thing in the middle. It was cheap, and mom really thought that her daughter would like it. But mom failed to look at the packaging more closely, which makes sense. I'm sure she's just thrown it in her cart, but she failed to look at the fact that it said Evilstick at the top. She brought it home, gave it to her young daughter, and a little while after playing with the toy, her daughter became very upset and very scared, and is probably scarred for life, when she went crying to her mom with the toy in her hand. Instead of whimsical, pretty music, when you press the button, the toy actually played maniacal laughter. And then even scarier, the photo under the little mirror, it wasn't a mirror, but it was like a little piece of foil kind of reflective thing in the middle. When you peeled that off, there was an absolutely terrifying photo underneath. It was a photo of a woman who was made to kind of look like a vampire, and she is using a knife on her own wrists. The story made the news, and to this day, we don't know for sure how this toy made it into the store. Someone else nearby went to that store and found a bunch of the Evilsticks, and they all had different photos in them. They weren't all scary like this, but they were all called Evilstick. And then the photo in the middle of the wand was eventually tracked down, and turns out that it is an altered photo of a horror photographer's work. He was doing a macabre series and took a photo of this woman, but she was supposed to kind of look like a vampire, but then her eyes were changed, and it was just made to look a lot creepier for this toy. So the prevailing theory is that a worker in whatever Chinese factory this likely was made, that some worker photoshopped the photo and was able to sneak it into production. And that's why we've only ever heard of 2 of these wands being bought by 2 different people. But that still doesn't answer the fact that, like, why was there other toys called the Evilstick in the store right next to it? Only 2 of them had this picture, which this mom picked up and that guy picked up, but the other ones had other pictures in it. So it still doesn't explain why a toy called the Evilstick was made as a kid's toy to begin with. That doesn't make any sense. Even a knockoff dollar store company, that is a weird thing to name a toy. So this does remain a mystery in a lot of aspects, even though we have found kind of like the origin of the picture and verified that this was true. Kanye Quest 3030 cult. This is a weird one. Kanye Quest 3030 was a video game back for 2013 Windows. The video game follows Kanye West, who is taking out the garbage. He falls through a portal to the year 3030, because I'm sure somebody as wealthy and famous as Kanye West is taking out his own garbage to the curb. Now, the premise of the game is not very relevant to the mystery. However, if you're curious, it basically just follows Kanye in the year 3030, and other rappers are in the game, and he's like challenging them to rapping battles and stuff like that, and you have to beat the other rappers to move up in the game. The actual Kanye West has nothing to do with this. He didn't approve the making of the game. If he wanted to, he could probably sue if he wanted to, but it was such a silly little game that somebody just made on their computer that I'm sure he either doesn't know or doesn't care. But he didn't approve of this being made or anything like that. He doesn't have anything to do with the alleged cult connections. But anyway, the reason that this is a mystery is because a few years after the game's released, somebody posted a weird paste bin post, and this person said that they were playing the game and they came across this really odd thing in the game, and they figured out that if you type the word ascend to an NPC in the game, you're taken to a secret room and a completely secret part of the game. Turns out when you go to the secret part of the game, the game gets pretty dark, and it turns out that this entire game was a cult recruitment tactic for a cult/religion called Ascensionism. Now, I can't get into all the details in this video. A lot of people had made videos about this and got it wrong until 2022 when a channel named Grouse House, I think that's how you say their channel name, they did an entire series, an investigation called Finding Yeezus. And I have to say, it's a pretty underrated series. I'm kind of bummed that it doesn't actually have as many views as it probably should. Like, I feel like that's kind of, if people really knew what they had found out in this series, I wish it had gone viral, because they find the real creator of the game, and other people claim to have found something. I think Game Theorists did a video on it, and I watched them. I love theorist channels, but they got this wrong. They didn't investigate hard enough, because Finding Yeezus, that series from Grouse House, found the real creator of the game and solved this mystery. The real creator of the game turned out to be a person named Clara Hope. Turns out Clara made it for a school project originally. The whole thing was just an ARG. Ascensionism is not a real religion. There's no real cult behind this. Like I said, Clara just made it for an ARG project for school, and I think just added these other mystery elements to it. And it turns out that it is very likely that the creator, that Clara, was the one that posted about it on Pastebin, because nobody was figuring the mystery out. And so Clara posted about it on Pastebin to be like, hey guys, look at what I found, like to send people down the rabbit hole. So basically just an ARG, and the explanation is pretty simple at the end. But shout out to Grouse House, because they did do a very lengthy, a lot of research and a huge investigation on this. Okay, Kenny Veach is next. Kenny Veach refers to the hiker/YouTuber. He went to a cave located in Nevada in 2014, and he got lost in the caves, went missing, and has not been seen since. Kenny Veach, so he was an avid hiker, and he loved exploring caves and weird places, and he went by himself. On one of these excursions, he allegedly came across a cave where the entrance to the cave looked like a perfect capital M, and it has since been often referred to as the M Cave. The cave was supposedly located near the Nellis Air Force Base, which, if you don't know, is very close to Area 51 in Nevada. So Kenny reported on his experience with the cave. He didn't actually, as far as I know, document him actually going into the cave, but he said it was a very odd experience. The second he got closer to the cave, and then the second he walked in, his entire body started to vibrate. And then he says that he was overwhelmed with this inexplicable feeling of fear. Because of these terrible feelings, he left the cave, but after posting about it, his YouTube audience begged him to go back to see if he can go back and find it. So in October 2014, Kenny did go and try to find the cave again. But since he went to it the first time and he didn't document his location or where it was or any landmarks, he couldn't find it again. So then in November, he went back out, this time to find caves and to hike near the Sheep Mountains. He wasn't necessarily going back again to try to find M Cave. But when he left in November for the Sheep Mountains, he never returned. Now, even though he did go out alone all the time, he did at least tell his girlfriend where he was at all times. And so by the next morning when he didn't show up, his girlfriend had immediately reported him missing. A search and rescue mission for Kenny commenced, and they searched high and low for him. Very, very sadly, they found Kenny's cell phone in a vertical cave, and they even found his car a few miles away from that, but no sign of Kenny. This, of course, sparked a ton of conspiracy theories and concern by people online who knew that he had gone out to look for that M Cave near Area 51, and it was speculated and people were theorizing that the government or whoever controls Area 51 made Kenny disappear because he came across a cave that he wasn't supposed to find, and that maybe inside of that cave was an entrance to Area 51. Maybe he went in and he did find the cave and he went into Area 51 and saw all this stuff he wasn't supposed to see. And so they either took him or killed him for it. Of course, these are wild conspiracy theories. Kenny's girlfriend did later post a comment on the M Cave video, the one that everybody was freaking out about and having all these conspiracy theories about. And she says that even though they didn't find him, she strongly believes that he went out there there to take his own life. She explained that Kenny had been battling with his depression for many years, and it is believed that he left his cell phone in a place where it could be found. He left his cell phone and then went somewhere else in order to do this so that it wouldn't be traced to his body and he wouldn't be found for whatever reason. I don't know why he would do that. So it's either that, or if it was not because of S word, hear me out here, he hiked alone in the desert, and this was a man who claimed to like to play with rattlesnakes for fun, and he got lost. He got stuck in a cave and couldn't get out and suffocated. He got attacked by an animal. Like, Occam's razor here tells us that the most likely explanation is probably the explanation. And if it's between all of that plethora of things that could have happened when his loved ones were saying he was battling depression and he was also doing very dangerous things, or the men in black came and got him. Like, very, very likely that this was not nefarious and that it was just a tragedy. Hitogata Commercial is next. I'm sorry to my Japanese friends or people that speak Japanese. I'm sure I'm saying that wrong. You can tell me all about it in the comments. Y'all always do. This refers to lost media back from 2004 that first popped up on a Japanese message board. This is completely just an urban legend at this point because no one has actually been able to confirm that this commercial or this found footage exists at all. If it was real, it was either a commercial or it was a PSA, some sort of short video. The video allegedly contained 2 white featureless human figures over a dark black background. Usually people remember it in front of railroad tracks. A voice then comes on and says something along the lines of, every 2 seconds, someone dies on the earth. Now, I think that it is likely that this did exist in some form, but it's probably a lot of false memories mixing all together to morph it into something else. So the original, we can't really find. We're still finding it. Some people have had some pretty good leads on Reddit, and so it very well might actually exist, but it's probably very different than what all the recreations are. It could have been a traffic/railroad safety PSA, which I read is a big thing in Japan. And like I said, I think this just morphed into something else over time. And I do think the original will be found, if it hasn't already, somewhere on the internet. And I think people are just vaguely remembering things. Barbie.avi is next. This one is not real. Barbie.avi is a really infamous creepypasta. The reason I believe that it became so popular and so well known is because there is video to go along with the creepypasta, which gives it some credibility. The story goes, a man comes across an abandoned computer, takes it home, finds a file on the computer called Barbie.avi. The video shows a woman being interviewed in a white room. There's no audio of her voice though, even though she's talking. As the video goes on, it starts to look like she's becoming more and more distressed. We soon see in the video that the woman only has one arm. The video then cuts to someone walking down train tracks towards a house. The man then, who allegedly found this abandoned computer and therefore this file, recognizes the area of the railroad tracks and goes and follows this path himself. He finds the house that was in the video. It's an abandoned, run-down, dilapidated house, but he goes inside. He hears a weird, creepy moan somewhere within the house when he enters it, and it freaks him out so much that he doesn't investigate any further. He just leaves and never looks back. So that's the creepypasta. That's the actual creepypasta story. People discovered, though, that the writer of this story just found this particular video online somewhere and then just wrote the creepypasta around it so that there would be video evidence to go with it. The real story of the video was that this was a woman that we just refer to as Sharon, who actually is an amputee and lost an arm, and she's being interviewed by a man named Mike Rounds. Mike Rounds was known for interviewing amputees and getting their stories, and according to him, Sharon had lost her arm in a washing machine accident. So she had nothing to do with this creepypasta. This video is just associated with this random made-up story. Baby Monkey Hate Ring is next. I'm not going to go into detail on this one for very obvious reasons. You guys know me and animal stuff. This is exactly what it sounds like. I'm not going to show you anything. It's a problem that's on YouTube. It's this very strange thing on YouTube where there's random videos and playlists that people make around baby monkeys having, specifically baby monkeys, no other animal or older monkeys having bad things happen to them on purpose because some humans are fucking sick. Do not Google this one for the love of God, because the first thing that comes up are terrible headlines and very disturbing photos. Like, just, you're welcome. Just save it. Just take it out of your day. Remember that even though it seems like so prevalent nowadays, just remember that very, very few people actually want to hurt animals. Like, I try to remember that on a daily basis, that's actually the vast majority of people are outraged and want to help. And the vast majority of people are doing things to help animals. And it's just a very, very tiny, tiny portion of the population that are just terrible, terrible garbage waste of space humans. John Lang is next. Just FYI, I have no photos of this man, but he was a man from Fresno who was exposing the police, the Fresno police, to the public. The Fresno police were doing really shady things, and he was like exposing them online and talking about all the weird things that they were doing and that he had proof. It's not to say that the Fresno police were not corrupt. I believe there has been a lot of allegations of the Fresno Police Department having corruption issues, so I'm not disputing that by any means. But in this particular case, John Lang, turns out, wasn't actually exposing anything that wasn't already public knowledge. So John Lang goes on to claim that he's being stalked and harassed by the Fresno police after he exposed them for all of their shady practices. And because of being stalked and harassed, he put cameras all over his house. He then writes a Facebook post predicting his own death and claiming that if this happens, then the Fresno police are responsible for it. A couple days after posting that, the Fresno Police Department, sure enough, go to his house to find it completely up in flames, his entire house on fire. John was inside the house and he had been found with multiple stab wounds. However, at the autopsy, it was determined that these stab wounds were self-inflicted. So then, of course, many people believed that this was an entire police cover-up, that the police paid off the doctor doing the autopsy to get them to say that it was S-word, even though it wasn't. They actually killed him for exposing them, and yada, yada, yada. However, it is very likely that John Lang was suffering from mental illness. You don't usually become that paranoid about stalking and harassment and putting cameras all over your yard. Like, it's, of course, security is totally fine and everything, but you don't usually like post videos of the security footage when people are literally just driving by and doing nothing, or somebody got lost so they drove by your house twice, and then he was making it into these huge things, claiming that these were the people stalking him, or just every single vehicle, which could have been him construing it in a way that was not reality, if that makes sense. So it was likely that he was very, very mentally ill, and perhaps because of this and his hatred and anger towards the Fresno Police Department, he staged this whole thing to try to make it look like foul play. Like, he committed S-word, but did it in a way that tried to make it look like a police cover-up so that he could kind of be a martyr, you know, and have people scrutinize the police, and he would be the one that led the way into uncovering a bunch of other stuff about them. Now, I will agree that it is pretty wild to self-inflict in such a way that would be very, very difficult. However, I can see by the fact that, like I touched on, he didn't really expose anything that wasn't already public knowledge. So the police were like, they definitely probably didn't like John and everything. And I'm not saying anything about police departments not being corrupt, because I absolutely know that there's corruption in police departments. Do not twist my words or get anything wrong. I'm not defending the police in any way, shape, or form. However, I am saying that in this situation, I don't know why they would do this when he was kind of just like a rock in their shoe. He was just annoying. He wasn't like actually threatening their entire department or anything. So I just don't really understand what the motive and all the trouble they would go through to do this. And if he was showing signs of mental illness, it seems more likely to me that, yeah, he would be happily, if he was already feeling that depression anyway, and so he was fine with being a martyr, taking one for the team or whatever, I could see that going either way too. So this is technically unsolved. I don't think we know for sure what happened, but that's just kind of how I lean towards. There would have to be a better motivation for the conspiracy to be true, if that makes sense. Kate Yup is next. A lot of you have probably heard of this one. Kate Yup was/is, I don't know if it's past tense or not, a mukbanger on YouTube, and she was known for eating massive amounts of seafood. She was doing mukbangs, and her channel started to gain a lot of traction and attention when people started to notice odd things about her videos. She would have small bruises or other wounds visible on her body, even though she never showed her face, like her eyes were always covered with a mask. She never spoke in the videos, but then she would use captions to talk to the audience. But then people noticed that some of the captions started to become odd, and it would be like she was trying to give secret messages to the audience. So most notably, one of the message had the letters SOS capitalized in the message, and then another message had capitalized the letters to spell out HELP, help. In some of the videos, she's like looking, or it appears that she's glancing off screen at somebody who's filming her, and sometimes they would say, like a voice off screen would say, just eat or faster or things like that. So of course, as the internet does, everybody's convinced that she was being held captive and somebody was forcing her to do this on YouTube for money. She then disappears off the internet for long stretches of time. She's done this several times, and I think when I was researching for this video, she had recently come back, but it's just weird that with somebody who's getting hundreds of thousands, sometimes 1 million views a video, it's very uncommon for YouTubers to just leave YouTube because they're making money. Like, that's usually how they're paying a lot of their bills. So we can't go that long without uploading a video, especially if you're getting views like that. I don't know why she wouldn't be uploading unless she lives, it is speculated that she lives in Paris, so maybe she has a harder time monetizing that way. But yeah, so that's just kind of weird. Her last upload was October 7th of 2023 as of filming. Naturally, people just think she's being held captive. I fall into the non-conspiracy theory camp as usual. I think she noticed that people were creeped out by how anonymous she was and how she never showed her face while she was doing these mukbangs. And I think she noticed kind of weird comments coming through, like, oh, that's so odd. And so I think she started playing into it. Feeding into the conspiracies would boost engagement, which would therefore boost the video views. It definitely worked. Tons of larger channels, including friend of the channel Loey Lane, was making videos on her. And like I said, some have speculated that she's in Paris because it has been known that she probably speaks French, but her channel says she's in the United States. But anyway, I just think that I highly doubt she's being held captive because your captor would be the one editing the videos, probably not you. And I don't know why her captor would let her put those very obvious messages in the captions, or why they would be screaming that, like saying to her, just eat, or saying scary things off screen if they knew they were being recorded. Like, why would they leave clues like that? That does not make any sense. But the other possible theory to all this, the very sad theory, is that she's possibly suffering from an ED. As we know, sometimes mukbangers film their binge sessions. So perhaps though, and hopefully maybe she's gotten in recovery for this alleged ED. I have no idea. I don't know her. I'm not saying she has an ED because she perfectly well might not. But it's like, if I'm just saying, theoretically, if it was an ED, maybe she's getting help for it, and so she stopped binging, and so therefore she's not making mukbangs because that's gonna put her back in the cycle. You know what I mean? So maybe that's why she takes big breaks off of it. So I'm not sure, but I just doubt that it's some nefarious thing. I think it's just kind of an ARG type thing, and I think she's just fishing for engagement, no pun intended, because she's eating seafood. Okay, the most mysterious metal song is next. I can't do this one because I can't find it. I cannot find what this one is referring to. We did the most mysterious song on the internet in tier 1 or tier 2, I don't know, in part 1, but I can't find the most mysterious metal song. So if anybody wants to email that to me, please do, and I'll try to cover it in one of the future videos for this iceberg. Maura Murray's disappearance is next. A lot of you have probably heard of this case. It's one of the most infamous missing person cases, at least in the US, if not everywhere. It's bizarre, it's tragic, and we still don't know what happened to Maura Murray. So Maura was a junior at the University of Massachusetts Amherst, completing a nursing degree when she went missing. She went missing on February 9, 2004 in New Hampshire after crashing her car, and she just hasn't been seen since. She just disappeared and no trace of her has ever been found. She crashed the car into a ditch at around 7:30 p.m. A woman saw her standing by the car and this witness called the police for her. But by the time the police got there, no more than 15 minutes later, Maura was just gone. She was just gone. Obviously, that's a very brief summary. This case has been covered to death by many, many channels, and there's hours and hours and hours of footage and documentaries and videos and stuff on there. This is obviously a very brief summary, but the reason that this is often on internet mystery lists and people's internet mysteries is because of 112 Dirtbag or 112 Dirtbag or 112 Dirtbag or whatever you want to call it. So this is just an old man posted a video. It's just a minute of him laughing like a creep. It was posted on February 11th, 2011 originally, and it said happy anniversary. Remember that Maura went missing on February 9th, so he probably recorded it on the 9th. And then Maura also went missing off of Route 112. And her dad later says in an interview that perhaps she was kidnapped by, quote, some dirtbags. So Route 112 and this quote from her dad. And so this creepy old guy posts a channel and his name is 112 Dirtbag. Very clever. So of course, a lot of people believe that this is the man who took Maura and is responsible for her disappearance, and now he's taunting police and the family. However, me, like most people, believe that this is probably just some pathetic old man who has no life and no wife and no friends. The Horton Mine is next. This is a real mine, but the internet mystery around this mine usually refers to the YouTube channel called Exploring Abandoned Mines and Unusual Places. About 10 years ago, this YouTube channel posted several videos exploring this supposedly haunted Horton Mine. So they uncovered supposedly some very crazy evidence while exploring the mines. Some ghost evidence like this.
Skating water and look. What the fuck is that?
And then another video that went pretty viral.
I don't know why that one chain is swinging back there. Don't know if you can see that in the video or not.
I talked about this in another video one time, but it was later exposed to be a hoax, and it was later exposed to be set up. The audio clip that you heard of the weird sounds coming from the mine that this person filmed was turned out that somebody found as like a stock audio clip or like something from a video, something like that, like a Halloween stock audio clip, I think was the rumor, but I believe that has been confirmed that somebody actually found that. And then obviously the chain moving, that could have easily been set up. Like you just run over, move the chain, run back, and then just cut the part out of the video where you ran over to the chain. After it was revealed to be a hoax, they deleted that part of the video with the sound effect and everything. They like completely cut that part out of the end of the video. It's very weird. So it just like cuts to another screen and it looks really weird, but thankfully other people have, of course, uploaded it because nothing on the internet ever dies. The chain video, though, is still up. This was all a hoax. Very easy to solve, and it's been proven to be a hoax for many years. Okay, moving on. That was the end of tier 3. We are now moving on to tier 4. So this next one is very weird to say. 973 et nam 973. That sounds weird, but it'll make sense in a minute. So this refers to a strange and mysterious website. Et nam it's just spelled backwards. It's just the human spelled backwards. The website definitely seems like an ARG, but there's been a lot of rumors to the contrary. There also seems to be a lot of conspiracy theory and religious messaging on the website. Many people believe that it was created by somebody who is mentally ill, because typically people that are very, very, very strong conspiracy theorists, I'm not saying like just speculating on some conspiracies for fun. I'm saying people that like truly believe QAnon and truly believe that all these people are doing, you know, the crazy stuff, like people that truly, truly believe the entire existence is wrong and all the conspiracy theories are true, is probably suffering from some sort of mental illness. So I think that's why a lot of people believe that. No known purpose of this website has really come to light, and that's really all there is to it. You guys know me, I get really bored of like puzzles and stuff. I just don't find them fun. I want other people to solve them for me. I don't care about them, so we're not going to dive too deep into that, but that's just all it is a weird website. Jeff the Killer original image. This is a good one. Please note that in this topic, we are going to show some creepy photos. I'm sure you've seen the Jeff the Killer photo, but don't be jump scared because I'm going to show it on the screen several times, as well as variations of it for this topic. So move on to the next one if you don't want to see it. So most of us know who Jeff the Killer is. Jeff the Killer was another very, very well-known creepypasta. I would say Jeff the Killer is just as known, if not more known, than like Slender Man. Mind you, this mystery has nothing to do with the creepypasta, with the story itself. This is simply the mystery around the photo associated with the story that everybody uses as an example of what Jeff the Killer would look like if the story was real. The photo of Jeff the Killer is shrouded in mystery. Nobody knows where this photo actually came from, and there are, oh my God, this is such a rabbit hole. So many Reddit people just dedicated to figuring this out. Whole Reddit forums. Those Reddit forums have giant documents with all of their research on it. I love people, okay? I love people. I love internet sleuths that get so into this stuff. I don't think it's weird. It's just like painting. Like if some people like to paint or knit in their free time, some people like going down internet rabbit holes, okay? Anyway, this is a Photoshop photo. We know that. And there's two different photos that are most commonly used when referring to Jeff the Killer. But no one knows where this image came from and what the original unphotoshopped photo looks like. Nobody in all of these years has come forward as the culprit or claimed that they were the one that originally photoshopped the photo. Dozens and dozens of photos have been studied over the years to see if it is the correct photo, and to no avail. The most prevailing theory right now so far is that it was taken from a photo of an Asian woman named Mariko, as this photo was found specifically because the hairlines match, and you could see with a lot of edits how this may be the original image. However, like I said, this is not confirmed. This AI mock-up image of this woman, Mariko, was created and often makes the rounds as being the original photo, but just know that the original Jeff the Killer image Reddit group tries to spread the word that this is not the image. Someone made an AI image of how this woman may have looked in the original photo, but this is not a real photo. Anyway, Mutahar from Some Ordinary Gamers has even put a $10,000 bounty out on the original photo. Anyone who finds the actual original unedited photo and proves that that is in fact the photo, he says that he'll give them $10,000. Given that there's 8,000 members on this Reddit community, and YouTubers like Scare Theater and many others have gone down the rabbit hole trying to figure this out, I have no doubt that this will be solved one day. But I understand why this is bugging everybody, because it's just so weird that somebody obviously, if I were to speculate, somebody obviously read the creepypasta, thought it was such a great story, they went online, found a photo, and then edited the photo to look like the Jeff the Killer described in the story, posted it online. It became an infamous photo. Everybody uses it when referring to Jeff the Killer. And then that person just they either never saw that it was an internet mystery, because if they saw it, maybe they would be like, oh yeah, that was me. My bad. Sorry, I've been offline for a few years. Here's the photo, you guys. No worries. Or they have seen, and for some reason they don't want to come forward. Maybe they just like the chaos. Maybe they like that they've driven everyone mad. I don't know. But it's just so bizarre that nobody will come forward and take credit for this and actually be the one who did it. It's just so odd. And I'm so excited for this to be solved someday, because I have faith that it will be, because it is very, very bizarre. Laughing Horse's Orifice headquarters, you'll often see this one abbreviated to LHOHQ. This is another website, and it's boring to me too. I'm so sorry. I don't like the weird websites very much. I just think they're boring. I think it's because I don't like mathy or codey puzzles, as I've said 10,000 times. But it's just a weird website full of conspiracy themes, anti-government, anti-politician messages, strange voices, cult connections. People often refer to it as just an ARG. I've shown a couple stills of the website, but just FYI, if you want to go to the website yourself, don't go if you're photosensitive or if you have epilepsy or anything like that, because there's crazy flashing lights all over the website, and it's like lots of jumps. You don't know what you're, not jump scares, but you don't know what you're going to get as you navigate the website. So just please be very careful if you have some sort of medical condition that can affect you with flashing lights and stuff. So also FYI, the website is very much not safe for work. Ruth Price is next. This one has actually since been solved. It wasn't solved until 2022 though, so I can understand why it says unsolved on this Iceberg. So this is referring to the Ruth Price 911 call. It is, as described by the title, a elderly woman named Ruth Price who calls 911, or it seems like a 911 call, and she's calling to report a suspicious person in her neighborhood. This person had apparently knocked on her door, and she answered it, and she got a weird vibe and called the police department. She's on the phone with the dispatcher when suddenly she gets just the most blood-curdling scream, and it sounds like a fight and a scuffle breaks out, and everybody believes that somebody killed her during this phone call, and it was documented on the phone call. Now, I'm not going to play the full 911 call because I want this video to be monetized really badly because it's so long and I'm working so hard on it. I'll play you some of the beginning of the call, but I'm not going to play you the blood-curdling scream part just because YouTube usually doesn't like 911 calls. I don't know why. They don't like them. I'll make sure to put a link to the full call in the description if you want to hear the whole thing, but just FYI, it's kind of a jump scare. It's really, really distressing. So here's part of the 911 call, the not disturbing part.
This is Ruth Price of 3877. What's the problem, ma'am? Oh, well, there's some guy been checking the place out.
How?
Well, he went in the back. I have an apartment in the back, and he said he was looking for a guy, and he comes to my door, and
Yes.
and said he's looking for an apartment. So I live alone, and I'm an old lady. And I'm kind of
Where is he now, ma'am?
I don't have no idea.
Rumors went around that this was Ruth's final moments caught on a phone call. However, then another rumor came out that saying that this entire phone call was actually completely fake. Ruth and the dispatcher were actually actors on the phone, and they were doing this recorded phone call for a training for dispatchers. Turns out both of these answers were partially correct. In 2022, a Reddit user was able to track down a newspaper article from that date and was able to track down the newspaper article about Ruth Price. It was her name, it was that address, and it was the dates all lined up. So as it turned out, the article reported that thankfully Ruth was in fact attacked on the phone. That was real. Her scream is real. However, she was not killed. She survived the attack, and I don't even think she was severely injured, thankfully. Apparently, this guy had come up behind her and tried to start to strangle her, but she was able to grab him and fight him off, and the attacker ran away. Now, the phone call was actually taken in 1980, and Ruth Price was in the San Diego area where they didn't have 911, the emergency 911 call number, until a couple years later, I believe 1982, but it wasn't 1980, it was a couple years later. So this wasn't really a 911 call. Ruth was just calling the police department to report this suspicious person. Ruth ended up living another 14 years. She was already elderly, and she didn't pass away until 1994. And this call was actually used for training dispatchers. Not because Ruth died, but it was actually because, as you heard on the portion of the call that I gave you, the dispatcher doesn't allow Ruth to get out the full address before she cuts her off and starts asking her other questions. And the training call was to train dispatchers to never do that, to always get the full address. So it was just very interesting. I'm just so glad, though, that this mystery turned out happy, in the sense that while I'm sure it was very traumatizing, Ruth, the badass old lady, was totally fine after this, and she went on to live a good life for 14 more years. 4chan alien picture is next. This one is also solved, but this is also a really fun one. These are the kinds of mysteries I like. The 4chan alien picture refers to an event on 4chan back in 2014. An anonymous user posted a very high resolution clear photo of an alleged alien, and it looked like the background, it looked like the alien was in Arizona, and this anonymous user posted this photo on 4chan back in 2014. They posted it with the exact coordinates of where this alien was. Within minutes of this alien photo being posted, all of 4chan gets shut down. And then when 4chan was back up, the post, the thread, the photo, they were nowhere to be found. They were completely gone from the internet. So, of course, everybody immediately assumes that it must have been a real photo of an alien, and 4chan shut it down very quickly after it was posted because they didn't want that photo to be spread because it was a real photo. A few people did thankfully save the photo, but it was a little distorted. This whole thing was very quickly discovered to be a hoax. The photo itself was a hoax anyway. This was a photoshopped picture of the alien from the X-Files movie. The original background, the Arizona background, was also quickly found its original source. 4chan being shut down at that moment was pure coincidence, and it is most likely that the post got deleted because it either never happened to begin with and people made up the whole thing about it being posted right before, or if it really did happen, then it was simply because it was posted so soon before it got shut down that it was just automatically not saved in the backlog. Paris Catacombs found footage is next. This was an alleged real found footage tape that people found after a man went into the Paris Catacombs, the illegal part of the Paris Catacombs, and was videotaping his excursion back in the 1990s, and this man had supposedly gone missing after taking this video. As you saw, the video clip is footage of him just walking around, but then his breathing gets faster and faster, and he seems like he's scared of something. He then drops the camera and runs away, never to be seen again, and like I said, he or his body has never been recovered. People called cataphiles, which are people that are just obsessed with the Paris Catacombs and go under to explore it a lot of the times in the illegal portions. They were around that area and found this video in the catacombs and eventually handed it over to a filmmaker named Francis Freeland. Francis Freeland used the video on his Scariest Places on Earth series that was on ABC Family. If you're not familiar with the Paris Catacombs, it is over 200 miles long. It's estimated to be around 200 miles, and it is under the streets of Paris. There's like millions of people's remains down there. Even though the catacombs is over 200 miles long, only a very, very small portion of it is open to the public for tours, for guided tours, I believe. I don't think you could even just go down there by yourself. So this man who entered a non-public area, an area of the catacombs that is illegal to explore, it's not exactly a stretch. It's not exactly bizarre or shocking that he would get lost in the 200 miles of the catacombs, spooked, drop the camera, and then eventually can't find his way out and die from hypothermia or dehydration. That part itself is believable, but the found footage part and the validity of this particular story, a lot of us have doubts, myself included. First and foremost, why wasn't this video handed over to the police? If this was connected to a missing persons case, the first place that it should have gone was the police. Those cataphiles could, even if they didn't give it to the police because they didn't want to get in trouble for being in the illegal spots, if they gave it to the filmmaker should have given it to the police to investigate and see if they could connect it to a missing persons case. And then the story about how the filmmaker got this tape is just vague. He claims that cataphiles just handed it over to him, but there's no specifics about it. I get wanting to be on the DL, because you were doing something illegal, but he doesn't specifically say how he was in contact with these people. It's just so vague. He's just like, I just ended up with it. It's just weird. It just doesn't make any sense to me. The video is also supposedly over 40 minutes long, but the only piece that has ever been made public is this 1 minute and 30-second clip. And then in the show, Scariest Places on Earth itself, this filmmaker and his crew go into the catacombs and they claim that they found the exact area where this man was. They found the area that he was exploring when he disappeared. So out of 200 miles of illegal portions of the catacombs, they found the exact place based on this grainy video of where he was. That seems like something that would be easier to find if you had already been there and taken this footage yourself, just in my opinion, and then made up this story around it. And along with that, an entire documentary crew agreed to go into the Paris catacombs in an illegal area of the catacombs, document it, and put it on TV. That just feels really suspicious to me. That just seems odd. I don't know why the authorities wouldn't have gotten involved if you were really doing all that. So I personally think it's a hoax. However, it is technically unsolved. It has not been confirmed. Calls from Charles Peck is next. This one is so bizarre. The first thing that comes up when you look this up is a Snopes article, and I got really excited because I was like, oh yay, maybe they can debunk this or shed some light on it. And nope, they're just like, big green check, yep, this one is verified as true. In September 2008, a commuter train collided with a freight train in California. The commuter train's engineer was texting. 135 people were injured and 25 people died in this tragedy. 49-year-old Charles Peck was one of the deceased, and he died on impact of the crash. Keep that in mind. For the first 11 hours after the crash, Charles's phone was calling all of his loved ones. His son, his fiance, his brother, his stepmom, his sister. 35 calls went out in total in the 11 hours following the crash. Remember, his autopsy showed that he died on impact. When his loved ones picked up, nobody was there. All they heard on the other line was static. And when they tried to call Charles back, it just went to voicemail. 12 hours after the accident, 1 hour after the calls stopped, the first responders found Charles's body in the wreckage. His cell phone was never recovered. Reportedly, they did not find his cell phone on him. His family was, of course, devastated, thinking that if he was calling them for hours and hours after the accident, he was alive somewhere in there, but he was just stuck somewhere. So it was really, really devastating to find out that he had passed away at the impact of the crash. But of course, his phone making all these calls to his loved ones without anybody being there made a lot of people believe that Charles's ghost was calling all of his loved ones. There are some possible explanations for this, though, which I'll go over now. Some people did suggest that maybe he was butt dialing, like maybe his phone was in his back pocket and the way his body was positioned was pressing buttons on the phone. However, this is quickly ruled out because, as far as we know, his phone was never recovered, and so it wasn't on him. Others suggest that a passerby, maybe some teenagers or some, people that saw the crash, somebody with not so good intentions, saw the crash happen, and instead of trying to help, they went through the wreckage before first responders came and stole stuff off of people. But that doesn't make a lot of sense either, because why would somebody, after stealing the cell phone off of a dead guy, why would they walk off and then call all their family members? Perhaps it was somebody that was in the accident with Charles and they saw Charles had passed away, so they took his phone off of him or out of his pocket or whatever, and then started just calling numbers in his cell phone to see if they could get a hold of his family to let them know. But there's issues with that theory too. First of all, why, if you found a cell phone, wouldn't you just be calling for help? It seems like you'd be really disoriented, and at least most people were at least injured, so it just seems weird that you would try to call somebody else's family members. It's possible, but that just seems weird, and then not say anything. And then if it was somebody in the crash who did that, it seems like it's likely they would have come forward since then and been like, oh yeah, sorry, that was me, and explained themselves. Because a lot of these explanations don't make sense, that's why a lot of people believe that this was a paranormal event and that Charles was calling family members after the fact. I think there's another explanation, though, that is quite possible, and I would bet my money on this. I personally don't believe in ghosts calling cell phones after they die. I just don't think that makes a lot of sense. I think it's very likely that Charles's phone was thrown from him on impact of the crash. Like, it fell off of him and it was thrown somewhere far away from him. Charles sadly passed away immediately, and his phone was very damaged in the crash and started malfunctioning. He probably had all those loved ones that he called on a favorites list of some kind, and perhaps the phone was stuck on that favorites list and kept making outgoing calls. I'm not sure why it wouldn't have been recovered at the scene, but perhaps there was a lot of stuff that wasn't recovered at the scene, or perhaps it was completely destroyed after that in a fire or some other, it got lost somewhere and nobody ever found it. That just makes the most sense to me personally. And again, I'm a pretty big fan of Occam's razor. The Sakhalin Island sea wolf is next. This is a strange, large carcass that was found on the shore of Sakhalin, an island in Russia. The carcass was found by Russian soldiers and for a while was regarded as proof of a cryptid specifically called a sea wolf. It has since been confirmed to be the remains of a beluga whale, not a cryptid. This one was solved. Of course, many people are still going to say that they're just saying it's a beluga whale just to cover it up, but it looks very much like a whale carcass to me, and experts would know better than I would. Strange Sounds from 96.7 FM is next. This was an incident that spanned from October 2017 to like the summer of 2018. A local radio station, 96.7 FM in Portland, Oregon, people started noticing in August 2017 that it was playing very strange sounds. Very weird beeping sounds, distorted sounds, static, pieces of JFK and MLK speeches, sounds from the Apollo 11 mission, sounds from the Sputnik transmission. Some people even heard pieces of distorted music or pieces of Lou Reed songs.
At 3 minutes and 7 seconds. The engines that generate that thrust have a combined horsepower equal to 543 jet fighter planes, all town's water tank. Liftoff, the noise reaches 120 decibels and has been compared to 8 million.
Nexpo did a big video on this. This one has since been solved. I want to say Nexpo was the one that solved it. If he didn't actually solve it, he was the one that brought to light who it was or who solved it. So it was figured out that this particular station was recently licensed by the Community Alliance of Tenants. They were a nonprofit organization that was shortened to CAT. It was very likely that because they had just gotten the license to the station, the people controlling the station were doing something in radio called stunting. This is something that radio stations sometimes do when they're switching formats or there's new people taking over the station. They play weird audio loops and weird sounds like this to garner attention, basically as a publicity stunt. And it worked. A lot of people were talking about it, and as I said, Nexpo made a half-hour video about it that has millions of views on YouTube. So hopefully it worked for them locally too, and not just as an internet mystery. Hopefully they actually got more people to tune in once they were playing actual radio stuff later in 2018. You have 30 days to pay me $5 million. This was a YouTube video that was posted in 2011 by a channel called Now I Know. We can't find the original video though because it has since been made private. The video starts with somebody making an RC car thing that has a camera attached to it, and then we see the person, presumably a man, and he is traveling. He gets on an airplane. He appears to have traveled all the way to Egypt, specifically to the Great Pyramid of Giza. He uses his remote control card with the camera to supposedly enter the Pyramid of Giza. The video glitches and ends before we see anything else. The whole idea was that the uploader was threatening to release what they found in the pyramid through the video if they were not paid $5 million by the, presumably the Egyptian government, that there was something so terrible or something so secretive that they uncovered in the pyramid with this camera that if they weren't paid $5 million, they were going to release the full video. Well, nothing happened, and after 30 days passed, this person released the full video. However, it was very anticlimactic. The full video was just the RC car entering a room, and we see a couple frames of just a figure maybe in front of a light or probably a window of some sort, and that's it. We don't actually see anything. And then there's text that follows it that says, "I have failed to get more info on this. This footage is all I got, but now I know something is going on down there. And next time I'll do my best to get closer. P.S. Don't ask me about the location of that shaft. I got nothing to lose, but I don't want to be responsible for your problems or your death. NowIknow.com." Even though this is technically unsolved, it is still safe to say that it's a hoax at the very least, even though we don't know who posted this or why. You can't just enter the pyramids like this with an RC car without somebody noticing. There is authorities all around because it's a very touristy area. There's lines for people trying to go visit the pyramids and everything. Somebody, a government agent or somebody there, a tour guide there, is going to stop you if you just have an RC card and try to put it in to the pyramid. And as Scare Theater points out in his video about this, they never actually show the car going into the pyramid. They show footage of the pyramids and then it just like skips to the cars in the pyramids. And most people believe, including myself, that this is just an air vent that they put their car into and they got that footage and then pretended like it was the pyramid. Especially because conveniently at the text, they're like, "Oh, well, I don't want to be responsible for you getting in trouble or for your death, so I'm not going to tell you where in the pyramids I was." Like, that's convenient. You also wouldn't post a giant crime and a giant like a blackmail scheme like this on YouTube. If you were really going to do this, you would send it to the actual government. You wouldn't just post it on YouTube. And there's way too many incriminating things in the video. Too much information about you and everything in that video that they could piece together, pieces of your location and the flights you took and everything like that. Even if it was real, the authorities also would have taken down the YouTube video immediately. It is taken down now, but it wasn't taken down quickly. We still don't know why this person did this though. A lot of people thought it was viral marketing for maybe one of the Egyptian pyramid movies, but that was never confirmed, or viral marketing for something else for their website, but nothing ever came of it. I personally think that they probably went to Egypt already, like sometime in their life, and they just had footage of them traveling to Egypt, or maybe they got the footage from a friend traveling to Egypt, and then they took some footage of the pyramids, or they got the footage of the pyramids from somewhere else. We don't know for sure, but it would make sense if maybe they already took a trip to Egypt for a vacation or for a school thing or something and had this footage already, and so they just made the video around this and then filmed their RC car in an air vent. It wouldn't actually be that hard to fake this. Okay, Oc282011.com, presumably meaning October 28th, 2011.com. This is another weird website. I don't have too much to report on this one though, even if I was interested in strange websites, because the website's gone. From what I could see from other people's videos on the website, it was a cult recruitment page, probably not a real one though, more like an ARG. There was other creepy text on it. The website was probably most well known for posting a phone number on the website where real users could call the number and they would get a really, really creepy sound when the person on the other end picked up. People reported weird breathing and weird moving. Some people said it was silent and then there was a loud beep, or like it sounded like somebody was moving something across the floor on the other end. However, one user on Reddit said that they tried the phone number 6 times and every single time it was the exact same audio on the other end, which means that nobody was actually picking up the number when people called. They just had this pre-recorded creepy audio that they put to play when you called the number. Very likely just somebody bored and trying to freak people out on the internet, like so many other of these strange websites. That's usually what it is. All right, Mariana's web is next. The next two actually kind of go together. You know how we have that internet iceberg that a lot of people refer to that explains all the portions of the internet? Well, very briefly, you know how we have the surface web? That's the tip of the iceberg. everything that Google, all the things that you go to on the internet is the surface web. Websites that you just click on and can click through or visit websites, articles, that's the surface web. Everything under the tip of the iceberg, everything underwater is the deep web. So the deep web is not necessarily nefarious. The deep web is anything that you don't just click on to find. So your bank, if you log into your bank, that very, very secure private information that you click in to get into your bank accounts, that online, that is considered the deep web, right? Anything like that. So anything that you log into or find that's not just public surface web is the deep web. And then the bottom of the deep web, though, where you need to use Tor or other browsers, other extensions to get into, that's the dark web. So the dark web and the deep web are not the same thing, but the dark web is part of the deep web. The dark web is what we think of when people go to do illegal things. So that's where the dark web, you log into Tor to get to the dark web, and certain people that are looking for particular things are going to go on there to find black market items, drugs, weapons, illegal stuff that you're not supposed to buy. And then, of course, if you're not buying or trading stuff, there's a lot of violent material on the dark web. I think that's where people a lot of the time go to try to hire hitmen, except a lot of the time the hitmen are scammers. Like, they're not actually going to go kill anybody. They just ask you to send them a bunch of money or half of the money, and then they'll carry it out. And then you send them a bunch of money in Bitcoin, and then they never do anything because they're not actually going to do that and go to jail. They're just scamming, you know? But that's where like all those nefarious, the crime stuff happens. And then of course, it's very notorious for having a lot of CP hidden in the depths of the dark web. But supposedly under the dark web, deeper than the dark web, deeper than the entire iceberg, the water, that freezing water under the entire iceberg miles down, is supposedly Mariana's web. The story goes that not anyone can just access Mariana's web. You need like a quantum computer, and you need to go through lots of steps and lots of puzzles and lots of verifications to actually get into Mariana's web. Some people speculate that Mariana's web is not just more dark web stuff, but that it is actually all the things the government doesn't want us to know. The Area 51 of the internet, if you will. It's like all the proof of aliens and cryptids that the conspiracy theory of the Men in Black come and erase your memory for. And all that, all the proof of that is in Mariana's web. However, it's been revealed that this entire thing is bullshit and it was completely made up. It's pretty much just a creepypasta. It seemed to originate in the Iceberg chart that someone made in 2011 explaining the depths of the internet. On there, if you notice before the Mariana's web layer, it says polymetric falsigal derivation, which is required to enter past the Mariana's web layer. And that, by the way, is just weird science jargon words put together. It's complete nonsense, according to everyone, but especially according to actual physicists and stuff. That's just, somebody made that up completely. This was seriously just something made up by a troll. As far as we are aware, Mariana's web does not exist. Okay, the last one for tier 4 and the last topic for today is red rooms. A lot of you have probably heard of this one as well. This is a very creepy concept. Red rooms are another dark web thing that are rumored to exist, again, only on the dark web, only when you access the dark web through Tor and other weird means. Red rooms are rumored to be live streams of people in typically red rooms, and the live stream is people torturing and killing victims live. Snuff films live, if you will. Supposedly, if you are watching these live streams, you can pay the hosts of the live stream to do particular things to the victim. So you can pay and request that they do specific things to the victim, whatever that is, torture or essay or what have you. But as far as we are aware, red rooms themselves are complete myths. There's been no actual evidence or proof of them happening live. And apparently the dark web is set up in a way that live streaming any sort of quality video would be near impossible, if not completely impossible to do. And if that's impossible, interacting with the viewers would be even more impossible. So that's not to say that terrible things don't happen on the dark web or that there's not footage of awful, awful things on the dark web. You could find that on the surface web too, though. But these interactive rooms of people live streaming this stuff is, as far as we know, a myth. There's never been any evidence of anyone actually seeing these or interacting with these. It was likely that this was inspired by the movie Red Rooms, which was a Japanese horror movie from 1999. In the movie, 4 contestants compete in a reality TV show, and they are torturing each other for the reality TV show for a money prize. And I believe the whole point is that nobody stops until the last, like, it's a Hunger Games thing, like the last one alive wins. So it's likely that it's just kind of a copy pasta thing that sprouted out of that movie when people thought of the dark web and like, oh, I bet this is happening on the dark web, or like, oh, that movie seems like something that would happen on the dark web. And so I think the rumor just sprouted out from there. All right, guys, that is tier 3 and 4. We're going to do tier 5 and 6 next time for part 3. So stick around for that. Watch out for that video in the next coming weeks. And that's going to be it for this video. Please like the video to help the channel. Don't forget our sponsor Factor. Look into the Patreon if you're interested in signing up for that, as well as my second channel, The Horrible Stories. Sorry, you don't have to do all those things. Just pick one of them, one of the ones you want to do, and do it. Shout out to our newest top tiers. We have 2 new top tiers this week, and that is Ellie Blanchard and Lena. So thank you guys so much for joining the Alien tiers, and I will see you all in the next one.